Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
And some others tonight as well. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm good. Looking forward to this. How are you, Greg?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So this is our second Paranormal Roundtable. And tonight we're joined again by Mike, Paramike.
Hello, nice to see you.
Paramike 82.
No. It's just Linktree now. It's Linktree.
It's just Linktree.com/.
We don't mess around with any of that bullshit anymore. It's just Linktree.
No, that's the best way. And we're joined by Michaela Ford from Paranormal Or What podcast.
Hello.
How are you doing? And we've spoken to Michaela a couple of times before on Ash's wall. Just, I don't know which side it is I'm pointing to. There he is, right behind him, is the interview from Paranormality magazine that someone kindly printed out in a massive format for him. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's fantastic. I've got my T-shirt on, guys, if you're listening.
Oh, yeah. Nice one. Available in all merch stores everywhere, I'm sure, Michaela.
Absolutely.
How is Paranormality magazine going? I subscribe digitally.
Yeah,
which is cool, so I get those.
Amazing, and we've just got loads of new writers on board as well.
Cool.
One which is a lady called Lady Anne Selene, and a couple of other people who I'm sorry, Matthew Hopkinson and another really nice guy. So we've got quite a big pool of writers now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And anybody listening, head over to Paranormality magazine website, and on there you can vote for your favourite podcast. Now, obviously, Michaela's got her podcast as well, so a joint venture between ours would be great.
That would be amazing. And please listen to my podcast, because
absolutely.
I have a very, very small listenership, but it's my own fault because I don't do any marketing. But
that's all right. Yeah. Have a listen. Yeah, and that's available everywhere as well, isn't it? I know it's on Spotify and whatnot. So check out Paranormality. I can't even speak. I'm on one of those weird moods today.
Fun fact: my ears pricked up when Michaela said Matthew Hopkinson, real name of the Witchfinder General.
What?
Yep, Matthew Hopkinson was the guy in the 1600s who was responsible for hunting all the witches and going, "You're a witch because you sneezed," and killing loads of women.
I wonder if it's just a coincidence, or if I've added a bit on. Maybe it's Matthew Hopkins. I'm going to have to check now.
Now, if it is the original one from hundreds of years ago, that's even better.
It could be. You never know. We've got
first-hand experience. Yeah, that'd be some legitimate writing as well, wouldn't it?
I've probably just conflated it in my head.
So tonight we're going to talk on this roundtable. So this is our monthly chat, whereas last month we talked about poltergeists.
Yes.
And we talked about the Enfield poltergeist at the end. So tonight we're going to talk about equipment used in the paranormal investigation world. Ooh. Now, this is quite a hot topic for people, because I know watching all the different programs, you watch all the live streams, you listen to podcasts, you see all these Facebook groups. People swear by different pieces of equipment. You got people talking about SLS cameras, you got people talking about spirit boxes, Ouija boards, you've got dowsing rods, you've got crystals, you've got everything. So to start off then, Michaela, what do you think would be your sort of most successful piece of equipment for the paranormal?
What that question's going to be?
Yeah, I didn't know where it was going then.
That was going a bit sus.
My sexiest piece of equipment is...
All right.
No.
I wonder if there's a market for paranormal sex toys.
Probably.
I imagine there's some kind of weird niche there.
Anyway,
somewhere.
Probably a fetish site somewhere. mysexyghost.com or something. Anyway, getting back on track, I'm a great fan of the simple piece of equipment My favourite thing is just a very basic but good quality voice recorder.
Cool.
And
Where's
I
that?
know that everybody likes to see a different piece of evidence. Everyone's got their bit of evidence that makes them really excited. Voices are my area that make me really excited. If I get a voice, it really makes me feel like I've actually got something worthwhile.
So you say, would you take that as evidence over something anomalous on a camera, or do you believe that that is the voice of a spirit, or what do you think it is?
Um, I would like to think. I mean, I can only be led by what I think is right. I'm not a massive scientist. I think it's extremely hard to prove what's paranormal and what isn't, as I'm sure everybody agrees. I do go by my gut instinct a lot. I think catching things on camera, you can be mistaken quite a lot. Your eyes play tricks on you. I actually trust my ears more. So from my gut instinct, I feel like when I get a voice, when I get an EVP, I've I like to think that it is a spirit speaking.
Yeah.
Although I'm not the sort of person who would ever say this is this is that doesn't exist, that can't happen. I'm just completely open. I think that anything could happen, and anything could be mistaken or hoaxed, and anything could be, you could accidentally find something that's really true. I might be just babbling here, but I believe that EVPs can be the voices of spirits speaking.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Mike?
I'm going to caveat this by saying that any devices out there that claim to detect ghosts 100% do not detect ghosts, because it's entirely theoretical, and no one can sell you a piece of equipment that says this definitely detects ghosts, because no one knows, right? In terms of favorite pieces of equipment, that's, and by the way, that's not me being trying to be an arsehole and just telling people that they're wrong if they're ghost hunting, because I'm well in, but we need to be realistic here that the entire thing is theory. I'm a firm believer that different spirits prefer different methods of communication, if that makes sense. Like, you can go to a place and you can get loads of stuff on a spirit box, or nothing at all on a spirit box, but something will be able to trigger an EMF detector, whereas sometimes you'll get nothing. Or like the Alice box, for instance. We've had a lot of gibberish come out of it, but also some very seemingly accurate things come out of it. I don't know.
What about on EVPs then? So voice recorders. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm rubbish when it comes to EVPs, because I normally forget to set the recorder up. I've got a semi decent recorder, which I have had some weird anomalous stuff on. But I'm pretty rubbish at remembering to put it on, because I'm normally pointing a camera at something and worried about that more. And B, I'm also a firm believer that you can't really trust any evidence that you don't gather yourself, because unless you're there in the room, you don't know what could be happening. So whenever I hear an EVP from someone, they go, "Oh, did you hear this? It says my name, John," and it's just like a garbled mess. I'm like, does it really? But again, I can't say either way because I'm not there. And unfortunately, I don't really do enough EVP to say that I've captured one that's like mind-blowingly amazing or anything. As I say, we've had some weird anomalous noises, but not like voices or anything.
What about you, Ash? What are your thoughts on EVPs and voice recorders?
Yeah, no, I like EVP. I always have one set up. When the first thing I turn on is just make sure it's on record. Get stuff. Where I fall down is listening back. Like, I like recording it, and then obviously if you're there somewhere for like 4 or 5 hours, it's like, can I listen back for another 4 or 5 hours? It's to try and find something, which is obviously the hard point. Like with all stuff, it's going through the footage, the videos, going through the footage, especially multiple cameras, multiple recording devices. It's having that time to actually go back. I have done. I do go back, but I will maybe do half an hour and then skip and then do another half an hour rather than sit listen to a whole 4 or 5 hours. So I probably have missed stuff because it's just obviously very, very time consuming.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask Michaela, you had any luck using like an EVP or anything that you captured where you think this sounds like something on there that you've caught?
Yes. Although I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I don't want to be advertising other places on this podcast. But I mean, I know that you both sort of, to some extent, follow what Danny Moss does. And
Friend of the show. Friend of the show.
yeah, last week I went to my haunted hotel here.
You
What?
did. How was that?
Tell.
Again, I've been twice now. It is mind blowing because before you go, that can't be all happening, and then you get there and you go, oh fuck, it is.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so just to interject here, I've watched quite a lot of Haunted Hunts. Is it called? His show that
Oh
he used to
yes,
run
I
on.
haven't seen that actually.
Oh, okay,
That's
I've
really
watched
good.
a lot of that, and I've watched almost all of My Haunted Hotel, and I'm the same as you. I'm looking at it going, no, there's no way. There's got to be some sort of speaker somewhere where those those knocks are coming from, right? And it's almost like it's so bizarre because I'm looking at it going, and not to throw any shade on Danny, but I'm like, it seems fraudulent because of how good the stuff he gets is. And admittedly, there's a ton of footage that gets edited down, but there's no way. Like some of the stuff they've captured at My Haunted Hotel, you just like, there's absolutely no way. Like, surely not.
It is incredible. I would heavily recommend to go because unless you go, and people say it on the program every week, you've got to come to see it to believe it as it is. And it is an incredible place. I mean, I was stood in the corridor the first time we went, and there was someone, I could hear footsteps walking towards me on the wooden floorboards, and I was stood looking, and there was nobody there. I mean, it was just mind boggling. The bangs that we had on the wall and the door were massive, absolutely massive. And every time we got either a knock on the door or footsteps just outside the door of one of the rooms, I would fly to the door, pull it open straight away. Nobody there in sight. So either they are the world's best fakers or it's haunted, which is it is what I believe. It's incredible. Anyway, we got one of our best EVPs there last week. We were asking you can see it on last week's episode, folks. Although
I'll
you
go
don't
back
see
and watch it again now because I
much
didn't
of
realise it
me.
was you.
Yeah, you just hear my drony northern voice sort of in the background. But we did a really good session on the Paracast, and a voice came through, which I guess is technically not EVP, but still voice related. And I was recording it on my EVP device at the time, and I have it as evidence, well, my evidence. And this voice was saying, I'm behind you. And because there were a circle of us, and I said, who are you behind? And it said, as clear as day, Sindel. And Sindel is my friend who was there, who has an extremely unusual name. You couldn't miss it. And that just blew me away. It really did.
Wow.
Wow.
I can't quite remember. I vaguely remember that part of the episode now. Did you get to do room 8 with the Grace doll? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
What was that
Uh,
like? Because I'm super skeptical of any like haunted doll.
Yeah, it was. It was nerve wracking, and I don't know whether that's because I had built it up in my head. So actually, by the time I went in there, my heart was pounding and my knees were shaking, and I tried to just ignore myself. And I asked a lot of questions. We didn't get any responses while we were in there, but the other half of our group went in after, and I don't know whether this was a coincidence. That there's definitely no wind in there, but the chain that is holding the box together was swaying very minutely, but still almost in kind of a pendulum type fashion. It was very atmospheric, but as for anything else, I can only trust what people have got, really. I haven't got anything myself from the doll.
What are your thoughts on kind of haunted dolls and that kind of other haunted objects?
Mm, um, well, let's just say I wish I could show you. I probably can. If you come with me on the video, I'm going to walk across my living room to my little haunted corner that my husband and children do not approve of whatsoever. And you'll see
Oh wow,
there are two rather scary looking dolls.
that one on the right's a bit freaky.
He looks like
Yeah.
Chucky. Literally looks like Chucky.
Actually, she's worth quite a lot of money. I accidentally bought quite a find from my local antique shop. She's made by a very famous doll maker.
Okay.
Despite the fact she looks quite terrifying. So I actually bought them after watching several Grace episodes of My Haunted Hotel, and I thought I'd go and find the spookiest dolls I could find in my local antique shops and see if anything happened around them. And I have to report that literally nothing has happened. So either I have got no haunted dolls in my house, or things like that don't exist. For me, the jury's out. I don't know if it's possible that sort of bad spirits can possess dolls. I think that's a terrifying concept. As for whether it's true or not, I don't really know.
So why would it be just dolls? Why do you think? Is it because they are sort of seen as like a kid's toy, or
They don't say haunted action man or haunted
Yeah.
Lego figure.
Maybe it's because it's a human form. I don't know really. Maybe it's because they're the epitome of innocence. I don't know.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We interviewed a group, and they had a vast collection of haunted dolls, and they. I asked about the back. One of them said it didn't have a backstory with it, and he'd bought this doll online, and it came with its own backstory, and he'd lost the backstory, so he didn't know what it was. But they were they were going to do investigations to try and get EVPs and whatnot from these particular dolls. So I think horror movies like heightened the whole haunted doll thing. You got Annabelle, and you've got the whole Ed and Lorraine Warren with Annabelle, and
Yeah.
you've got like the original Poltergeist film. They've got that clown doll that tries to attack the boy, and like Chucky dolls, all those kind of stuff. They're always sort of seem to be.
Who's meant to be terrifying. You're not even meant to utter his name. Ooh. Sorry, Robert.
Yes, yeah, that's a strange looking doll as well.
Mm.
There was. Have you seen? There's a film called I think it's The Boy, and I can't think of what it's a ceramic doll, and that's a great horror film if you like some kind of creepy. It's called The Doll, I think it is, or The Boy. I'll put it up. It's really good.
Ooh.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm out on dolls. I'd like to think they're good, like they're real, and they possess some kind of spirit. But like you say, it's quite a freaky proposition if that's the case, because that's like a household object is a doll or whatever, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing kids play with all the time.
Exactly.
But I would like to see an action man go in wild poltergeist style. That'd be quite cool.
Or a Barbie.
Or a Barbie, psycho Barbie, like spinning head and stuff like that. So so EVPs. So going back to voice recordings and EVPs. I think EVPs for me as well. I love the EVP. I love any kind of voice that comes through. We've had great success with the Spirit Box where voices are coming through. Ash has had some particular experiences in Cannock, where it said a member of the group's name.
Wow.
Yeah, and I do put more weight in the EVP. I love that. But it has to be where you go to somebody, what can you hear? Not do you hear
Yeah.
Greg?
I
Because
also
as soon
think
as you say, do you hear Greg? That's what you'll hear. It's
I also think
audible pareidolia, or
it's somewhat immaterial sometimes, though, right? Because even if you can't agree on what was heard, you can kind of agree that something was heard.
yeah, yeah.
We just did an investigation down in Portsmouth, and we set up a spirit box there. And one of the weirdest things was there was absolutely no radio bleed coming through the spirit box. And we could occasionally hear things to the point that we acknowledged and went, "This is so weird," because I've used my S box a ton and there's always radio bleed. And then I said to my friend Neil, "Can you turn it up a bit?" The minute he touched the spirit box, it was almost as if he earthed it or whatever, and it acted like an aerial. The minute he touched it, we started getting radio bleed through it. And I was like, what the hell? But yeah, that was really interesting that it was like, it was basically like there was zero radio bleed coming through whatsoever. So there wasn't anything that you could argue was like a song or the news or anything.
Yeah. Wow. I've also had a similar thing on the spirit box. The first time I used the spirit box was at Oxford Prison on a ghost hunt, and I was in a cell, and the prison cells, the walls are like thick concrete, and I've got the YouTube. It's on the YouTube clip. It says hello across a couple of seconds, so it sweeps and it says hello. And I even said to the guy I was with, I was like, "Did you just hear that?" He was like, "Yeah." And it was clear as day. Somebody said hello, like a
Yeah.
woman's voice in the prison cell. And there was literally there was no radio signal because the thing's fucking miles thick, this concrete of these cells. But
That's like last week with Danny, talking about Danny Moss again. He put a clip up we talked about in the live stream last week where
yeah,
he's putting his camera up and you hear a woman's voice go like hello. Like
It was on the latest episode. After you guys said about it, I saw it, and it is weird as hell. And again, it comes back to like if he was to be making stuff up, he's a pretty good actor to shit himself that much when he hears a voice come through the corner of the room and he's immediately like jerked around and looking and like, what was that? Which I think would be a pretty natural reaction for a lot of people.
I do like, if you ever watch Haunted Hunts, some of his reactions on that program as well. It kind of like startles him.
Yeah,
But we need to go up there, guys. We do need to go up there.
So
that'd be a good episode. That'd be a good
It
episode.
would be a fucking brilliant episode.
the,
And that's what I also love about that place, because they've got cameras everywhere, but everybody's part of the investigation all the time, which is really cool. I know this isn't an advert for my haunted hotel, but
It's not a paid affiliation.
not paid. We're not being paid by Danny Moss to say my haunted hotel is available for book. No, we're not. We're not. We just we do respect people in the community that are doing good things, and Danny Moss is definitely one of those.
I also think he's one of those people who, so the paranormal community can be a bit insipid sometimes, and he's one of those people who isn't afraid to stand up and be like, rightly or wrongly, orbs are bullshit in his opinion or whatever. You know what I mean? He's not afraid to stand up and give his opinion and be like, actually, here's what I think.
Yeah.
And also it's not like he's just sat in an armchair giving his opinion. He's actually out and he's investigating and trying new methods and stuff and actually trying to push the community forward, which not a great deal of people are, I don't think.
Definitely. He's definitely, he lives and breathes the paranormal, that guy. So, but yeah, we're definitely going to need to go up there, all of us. And
100%.
although it's probably a bit closer for Ash, it's a bit further for me and Mike. That's a road trip, Mike, if we've ever seen it.
Yeah, that sounds good, man.
We'll do that. So just going back to voice recorders, one thing I noticed on a program I watched the other day, I was watching Help My House is Haunted. I don't know if you've seen that. Quite good, actually. I quite enjoyed it. Again, some of it is for entertainment purposes or whatever. But what they were doing with the voice recorders is they would ask a question. If they thought they heard something, they would rewind the voice recorder there and then and play it back. They wouldn't just do it at the end, because I'm with Ash. You've got all this voice recorder to go through. Fucking hell, that's dull after the event, especially if you don't even know if there's anything there. And I think that's probably the worst thing about paranormal investigations. I say worst. It's not work. It's not bad, but it's just so time consuming. The day after, you go, "Oh, do I really have to go through all?"
From running a YouTube channel, that is pretty much my life of reviewing footage. And
Yeah.
especially, I get what you mean. I actually really like it, but so they're watching 4 hours of locked off camera. You're like, is there going to be a noise? Is there not? And then make it like making notes of the timestamps to edit it down. So yeah, I agree. And a lot of people will do burst EVP sessions, right, where they'll fire it up, ask a couple of questions, then immediately rewind it and see and try and review it there on the spot.
Do you think that's a good way of doing it? Because then you could, if you're getting an intelligent response, that you could ask further questions that you know are related to answers you've got. Whereas if you're doing it essentially blind and you're having to review it at the end, they may have said that their name was whatever, and then you've just gone off on this tangent, and you could have had this amazing piece that you could have been asking questions about and trying to get some intelligent responses to intelligent questions. So I think that is something I might try the next time I'm doing an investigation, is to ask a couple of questions, then literally review it there and then, whack it up loud and see what happens.
It's definitely worth a try. I mean, as I say, it's entirely theoretical, so everything's worth a try. And
Yeah.
I've got my personal biases of what I think doesn't work.
Go on then.
But that's not to say that no method is any less valid, because there's no proof that any of this is actually correct. Personal biases, okay. Haunted dolls.
Go on.
I'm kind of with Michaela. I have never experienced one, so therefore I don't believe they're real. In fact, I think there's more possibility that it's absolute bullshit than it actually being real, because I recently went on eBay and typed in haunted doll, and I don't mean to be funny, but if you own a haunted doll, you would not be selling it on fucking eBay for £10. Do you know what I mean? Like, not only is there like a moral obligation not to be irresponsible if it's got a quote unquote spirit attachment, but also it's literally a doll they're selling for £10. They've made up a little story about and gone, oh, it's got a positive spirit on it. Yeah, okay. And then at the bottom they're like, oh, the disclaimer due to eBay's rules is that this isn't a toy, but it is for entertainment purposes. And it's like, so it's not haunted, is what you're saying. Like, it's a money. The problem is it's a money spinner, and again, like, it's belief based, so no one can prove it either way, right? So haunted dolls, and I could be wrong. There could, like, Danny Moss might have the Grace doll, which is horrendous, and I think by his own admission, he was in a very similar boat where he said he didn't believe in them until he encountered that doll, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'm in the position where I don't believe in them because I've never encountered them, and as weird as the paranormal is, my brain still can't fathom out how a inanimate object would get possessed by a spirit.
Yeah, that's the same. What do you think, Ash?
So, I mean, I love the idea of it. I think it's awesome. And there's another panel investigator who has TV shows and stuff, has been on TV with their haunted doll.
Who's that then?
But the problem with that one is he has kind of opened it up and he's put like LEDs inside it. So like the eyes light up. So he properly messed with it by going inside of it, and it cries tears. I've held the doll in my hands and it had tears come down its cheek. And it's just like, how's the doll cry real tears?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem the fact that by on a mission, he's opened it up, put stuff inside it, because it's got LEDs and all stuff inside it, and light ups and lights and stuff. So he could have put something in that makes these tears come out. He just kind of takes it away. Like, if he's got a haunted doll, but then he's messed with it to make it look more haunted.
Yeah, it does
like
look
a burnt dress and tears and blood-stained face and stuff. And it's like, is it a prop? Or like, if it's just a doll, then why like mess with it if he's got a haunted doll? Surely the haunted doll, if he's doing stuff, is enough evidence not to have to have these lights and everything attached to it as well.
If it was haunted, you wouldn't, A, due to the integrity of the item being haunted, you probably wouldn't want to fuck around with it. But also, B, like, why would you ever? Like, why does it make sense to start putting like LEDs in a doll and stuff? Unless you're doing some sort of like weird EVP thing with it, right? Where you slap an EVP detector in it or something.
Yeah, they've had. He does post footage of the doll moving and stuff like that, and this person's been on daytime television talking about it as well. A very mainstream morning TV show on ITV. But yeah, we've spoken to that person a couple of times. Who knows? Like you say, and the same with anything. We talked about UFOs as well. Until you have that personal experience, it's very difficult to believe something that is that outside the norm. It's like I can't just stepping sideways slightly to UFOs. People say they see these massive objects silently just floating and moving across the sky, and I'm like, how does your brain even comprehend that? So to have like spirits and whatnot inhabiting dolls or inanimate objects, there's like those boxes, those like weird boxes you can buy off the internet, and they say don't open them because they contain dark spirits and shit.
A Dybbuk box, yeah.
Dybbuk
box, yeah, like the Jewish thing, right?
Yeah, and they're just like you say, people are selling these things, and surely there's a duty of care.
But again, the Dybbuk box featured heavily in a horror movie, probably about like 2007, maybe. And I think before that, much like The Exorcist and Ouija boards and dolls and Annabelle, it was probably something that was never really thought of. And then it gets featured in a major Hollywood movie, and all of a sudden, oh my God, Dybbuk boxes are the new hotness. And it's like, okay, sure. Again, listeners, take everything I say with a pinch of salt, because none of this can be proven, so I could be 100% wrong.
But like you say, it's good to have that kind of viewpoint, because people do blindly accept what they're being told a lot of the time, especially on the internet. And
absolutely.
And like you say, just pointing back to The Exorcist, another piece of equipment that people use in paranormal investigations is the Ouija board. And the Ouija board was a parlor game for about the last 100 odd years, where people were doing it for entertainment in the evenings before television and all that kind of stuff, to speak to dead relatives and stuff.
This was also like in Victorian times, where they'd have a seance and you'd like pop round, have a meal, and then be like, should we just pop into the room next door and sit around the round table and have a fucking seance? And you're like, why not?
I would love to do a seance. Yeah. After dinner treat.
Yeah.
Let's go summon the dead.
Get dressed up in the old top hat and all the Victorian gear and be like, ooh, yes, I'm getting Jeremiah.
Yeah. But back then, that was their entertainment. It wasn't anything malign. There was nothing where it was seen as bad or the devil, until The Exorcist come out with the Ouija board, and all of a sudden that's people invoking portals to hell and all that kind of stuff, and it was seen.
Hysteria, was that?
Yeah, and nobody wanted, when I was growing up, because I grew up in the 80s, and I did.
Among other eras.
And I will fight either one of you.
The 80s.
So I was hitting my teenage years at the end of the 80s. Let's just say that much. And people, like the group of friends, whoever, they were like, do you want to do a Ouija board? And I was fucking petrified. I was like, no way. I've seen Poltergeist. I've seen that film when I was growing up, and that was scary as shit back then. I was like, I didn't see The Exorcist back then, thankfully, but I'd seen like Hellraiser and all. These are the days, just to go back, where you could, as a small child, go to a video shop with a letter and get any film out that you wanted. You could buy cigarettes from a shop with a letter just saying, my son can buy cigarettes. That's how it was back in the 80s. So I got Hellraiser out on video when I was 11, right? In the summer holidays, and we watched it. I was petrified. That's a scary film. Then like portals opening up and like these living dead coming out and tearing your soul apart. And you think people with Ouija boards back then, it was just like, what the fuck? I'm not invoking these kind of spirits.
Someone's like trying to pop around and do my puzzle box, and you're like,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
put it down. No, don't touch it, please. Don't touch it, please.
It's mad because I've done quite a few Ouija board experiments and a couple in the basement. One time,
Yeah, we have.
some fairly decent results, and a couple of times I've had nothing happen. And when I did, like, sort of went to a property as part of a organised ghost investigation night thing, and I did a Ouija board session there. We were all in this one room, and there was like 3 or 4 groups, all with like a Ouija board, all sat like 10 foot away from each other. So it's like, so if you're in this room, if this was a way to communicate with whatever, if there's one spirit in this room, but there's 4 people with a Ouija board, like, which is it going to go to one, or is it 2 ghosts? You're going to say to each other, "Oh, you go to that one, I go to," like, how
He's
that
having a
works?
busy night,
So to
isn't he?
me, I was like, I don't know. It's just like, what? Just didn't seem.
And again,
It didn't make sense to me.
on the subject of Ouija boards, you have to. I mean, don't touch them, and probably never will touch one. You really have to trust the people that you are on the board with as well, right? Because not that I've done Ouija boards, but we've been on public hunts and done glass divination with randomers, and it's like, I don't know you from Adam. Like, I can't implicitly trust you that you are not moving this glass. So then immediately you're like, it's probably not paranormal. It's probably just someone idiomotor effect or doing it deliberately. And it's one of those things, right? So like, yeah.
Yeah, I know what I mean. It is one of those things where if you're not doing it with people you know, and like, I would go there and go, I know that I'm not doing it, but I don't know that you're not doing it. Like, if I went with you guys and the people that we speak to from this community, I would trust you guys. I've got no reason to not trust you guys because we're all out for the same thing. But there are people that goes on these public hunts, and like you say, Mike, you don't know them from anybody else, and they could just be having a bit of a laugh, or not even knowing that they're doing it, which is part of the whole Ouija board and glass divination. That I can't remember the term you just used. I can't remember what it was called.
Glass divination is correct. Like idiomotor effect, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So you don't know that you're moving it, but you are moving it subconsciously. So
we did do table tipping on that same night, and I never done that before. I hadn't really sort of even seen it used. It's kind of new to me. And there were 2 of us, like, person I was with, which I trusted, and 2 others. And you had to, like, sort of tip one way for yes, tip the other way for no, that kind of thing. And that, I mean, it started off really slow, but then it started kind of working. And then at one point, the table was that far over to my left. I only had 2 fingertips on it lightly, and the other person sat across from me only had 2 fingertips on, and the other 2 weren't in touch anymore because it sort of, they couldn't get the angle because the table had tipped, but it wasn't falling over. And we both like, how the hell is this table not fall over? It was on one leg at a horizontal, but in the air, and we weren't even holding it. It was like, how is this table not falling? It was weird. So I did have a weird experience with that. I couldn't explain how it hadn't tipped. It was way past the point of equilibrium, and I didn't have any sort of pressure on it. And I could see the other person only had like 2 fingers, just like this, resting on the table. Yeah, it was almost completely horizontal on one leg out instead of 4. I was just like, how? I couldn't understand how that wasn't falling over. It didn't seem possible.
So
that was quite cool.
I've been to a location in the UK where we were made to do table tipping.
Vague. Vague.
If I give you any more than that, you'll probably know where it is immediately. I've been to a location in the UK where we were kind of forced to do table tipping. And it resulted in one of the hosts basically screaming, going, "Come on, spirit, tip my table." And miraculously, whenever he touched it, it would move like crazy. But anyone else, when there was 3 other people on the table, it wasn't really moving at all. So I was like, wow, this is evidently all bullshit and just for show then, because the common denominator here is whenever the host, who's there to, let's be honest, sell tickets, whenever he's touching it, the table's going crazy and seemingly tipping towards him. And it just like left such a sour taste in my mouth that I'm kind of like, it's kind of ruined table tipping for me entirely. And I'm like, no, I can't be bothered with that anymore. Michaela, what's your opinion on table tipping? You are muted, Michaela.
You are muted.
You are still muted, Michaela.
It was so seamless as well.
It was.
I'm doing the host job for you guys.
Still can't hear you, Michaela.
Yeah, you're still muted, unfortunately.
You should be able to unmute on your little thing now on the screen. So my own table, while we're waiting, my table. I've seen table tipping at Oxford Prison, or Oxford Castle, and yeah, I don't know what to think of it. It's like any of these things, unless you're part of that table and know the people, like Ash's experience. Obviously, you've got that personal one, and I think it's one of those ones that I'd have to give it a go, see what happens, to see whether or not I believe it myself. So I don't know, but then I've had, because they're always that same kind of table, aren't they? If I'm not
They're
mistaken.
always like, a square table with like the crisscrossy legs sort of thing.
Yeah, like a fold down table. So I was at Oxford Castle. There was table tipping going on the other side of this particular room in the tower, and I had my hands on the table, as did 3 other people. One of them was with me. I used to work with him, and we were asking questions, and then I heard like a tapping noise on the table, like a specific tap on the table, and we all looked at each other and was like, "Was that one of you?" And was like, "No," because everybody's hands were on the top of the table, just like that, sort of lightly touching it, like on a Ouija board or table tipping, and it specifically come from under the bottom of the table. We were all in agreement that it was coming from under the table. We're asking questions, and it kept this like tapping as though somebody was flicking the bottom of the table. But all 4 of us were on our knees with our hands on the top of the table, and we could all see each other's fingertips. There was no way that anybody was under this table because it was one of those little fold-out tables, and we were all kneeling down on the floor. So I don't know. And incidentally, we were all men. There was four guys, and we were talking. There was some communication with a female spirit, and then the women of the group were doing the table tipping, and they were getting results from that and communicating with a guy spirit. So I don't know if that's I don't know.
Strange.
Yeah. So what about you, Michaela? Now we can hear you.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
That's right.
Merrily chatting away to myself.
Yeah. Table tipping. What do you think? And Ouija boards.
It depends who's doing it. I think it's very dependent on situation, people, the weather, you name it. I think you can. It's a great tool for a hoax. I think it's also when you're with a group of people that you really trust, you can have some amazing results with it. I've been to lots of paid ghost hunts, and I've never trusted any Ouija board session or table tipping session there because there are too many unknown quantities, really. I think the only way that I'd really believe it was happening if I was with a trusted group of people. Also, it's quite interesting because I know that it sort of on similar lines to pendulums and crystals and things like that. The human body can have an effect on so many different things. And I believe that once a group of people get together, that the effect on inanimate objects can be quite incredible. So is it paranormal, or is it just that we as humans have this energy within us, and when we focus it together, we can make things move. Almost like a vague form of telekinesis, or I don't know. I think it's very hard to know what it is really. I think sometimes it can be incredible, but I don't know if it's paranormal.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's cases in history where there's been like mass hysteria. So people see something, then the whole crowd starts seeing something that's potentially not even there. Then everybody in like the town or wherever is affected, and the event has happened, and everybody can swear that they saw this one thing, but did it actually happen? I don't know. Like people seeing like the Virgin Mary appearing in the sky, and like the
Yeah,
whole town in Italy would see it, and they could swear to this day that they saw it, but did they, or is it just a result of like a hysteria within the group, like a heightened emotion rather than hysteria, I suppose, that people kind of swept up in it? And that's also something like with the Ouija boards, that things move subconsciously, things are happening subconsciously. But then, like you say, Michaela, there is that power of a group, and is the total energy of the group causing this anomaly to happen, this thing to happen. And
yeah,
I think there's so much we don't know and that we can't prove,
yeah,
that
yeah.
it's an interesting subject, because there's no right or wrong answer to a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff.
I
People believe things and people don't, and that's cool.
fine.
That's how it
Yeah, and
works.
I mean the thing is that when you're doing it, when I was at college, we spent a few months. We became quite obsessed with the Ouija board, and we spent a few months doing it nearly every night. I think we probably did it 5 out of 7 nights a week, and we got some incredible results. We believed it was paranormal at the time, but looking back now, you think, well, was it paranormal? What was there about it that was paranormal? So we made a very simple Ouija board out of a big, I was at art college, it was a big A1 sheet of cardboard. We drew it out. We used a glass, probably an empty Nutella glass. Um, and it was just very basic, but it went so fast sometimes that we couldn't even keep our fingers on it. And we got to the point where we were putting washing up liquid on the top of the glass in order to try and make sure that nobody was pushing it.
That's a
Um,
good idea.
and we had so much information from it that we used to have a secretary. Each time, one of us would be, honestly, you'd be sat there taking the minutes of what was happening on the Ouija board. I'd love to know where all those are now.
Wow.
Um, and we had this one person come through called Carla, who claimed to be um, quite a bad spirit. And we got so obsessed that she could even, I mean, this is students for you. It descended, as it always does. And we ended up testing her on what colour knickers we all had on. It's like, what colour pants has Emma got on today? And it would come up with the right colour. But the thing is, was that Emma subconsciously somehow not moving the glass on purpose, but somehow transmitting that information? Do you know what I mean? It's really mind-boggling. I still wouldn't want. You've moved. I still wouldn't want to disrespect it though, as a means of contacting. Yeah, Greg, you just
You,
jumped.
you've
Oh, you've gone back.
It's gone again.
He went
back.
offline for a second.
Hello.
I think that
Did then.
you keep going offline real quick. I don't know why. I think the real test of the Ouija board
Maybe
is
the
to
spirits are playing with us.
maybe. The real test of the Ouija board is to ask a question about someone or something that isn't actually using the board. So a thing that I'm trying to do more of is I've got a Scrabble board of all things, and to like spell out a word on the Scrabble board across the room, and then say to the Ouija board or whatever, can you spell out this word, as a way to see, like, because the people on the board are going to have no idea of what the word is, and the word could be the most abstract thing on the planet. Like, the last time we did it, I didn't have my Scrabble board with me, but I have, like, basically wrote on my phone "smelly," because it's just something that, like, it's not like someone's name or a color or something like that. It would be quite difficult to get from all the words in the English language.
That's a good idea.
And it didn't come up.
Yeah, I was part of a paranormal group years ago, and we done an investigation at a local mill. We got some good results there. Went there multiple times, but we were doing the pendulum, and a load of them had a pendulum, and I was asking questions, and they would be facing me, and the pendulums would be moving. I said, "Tell you what, turn round so you can't see me, and I'll ask you questions about my sock color, all this kind of stuff, and see if it comes up right then." And not one single answer was right after that, because like I say, because a lot of it is subconscious, and you don't know you're moving it in relation to the answer. So I found that fascinating, Michaela, that you said about the on the Ouija board, that on the glass that you would put washing up liquid, because then your finger would be sliding.
Yeah.
So you'd know if somebody was moving it slightly harder than anybody else, which is a good test. But also it's trying to remove the fallibility of human endeavor, really, because humans are the worst for that kind of thing. We're the worst sort of eyewitness accounts of UFOs and all that kind of stuff and paranormal activity. Somebody says, "I remember this," but is that exactly how it happened? Yeah, we get caught up in the sort of the remembering the last time you remembered it, and it Chinese whispers in your head and whatnot. But interestingly, just going before we move on to the last bit, we spoke to somebody who done a PhD in EVPs, Dr. Anne Winsper, because so she would go to these paranormal investigations and speak to these academics, and they didn't believe what she was saying because she's a woman. They didn't give her, because she had no academic qualifications, so she got her A levels in psychology, got a degree in psychology, and specialised in parapsychology, and she got a PhD in EVPs. Her dissertation was on. That was a great conversation with her, and so there she was trying to scientifically prove EVPs as part of her doctorate, which is quite cool. So it's the first time I've ever heard anybody doing that. So just wanted to mention that. Yeah,
they've got a few on a couple of TV shows now. They've got a couple of young women on who've got PhDs in parapsychology. Evelyn Hollow on one, and then there's another young woman with dark hair. I can't remember her name now. So there seem to be more people coming up who are actually sort of really studying these phenomena.
it's really good. It's good because we speak about it a lot. There's quite a lot of evidence gathering in the UFO field from scientists and government bodies, but there isn't that kind of sort of resource being put into the paranormal. So it is good to see that you can do like special parts of your psychology course in parapsychology, and telekinesis is part of that, because I looked at doing an A level in psychology. Not me. So the last bit I wanted to bring up, it is something that's quite a bit of a hot potato in the paranormal field, and it's especially popular on paranormal Facebook pages for is mobile apps that claim to be something they're not. I just wondered what your thoughts were, Michaela, on. I've got my own thoughts about paranormal apps. So, like, I don't know what they're like, ghost apps and ghost radar and all sorts of stuff.
Necrophonic and all that. Well, I don't trust them.
Cool.
I don't trust them. I have tried them on investigations. Um, it's one of those things that you think it seems too good to be true, therefore it probably is. Now, I suppose someone could argue, and I put my hands up, I don't know the technical ins and outs of how the Alice box works and the Ovulus, and whether that bears any relation at all. Probably doesn't to apps on phones. Um, so someone, I suppose, could say it's a similar idea. It's a word bank. The spirit manipulates the word bank to come out with the words that they want. But in my experience, because I have got 3 on my phone, because I wanted to try them out, I've never got anything sensible from them whatsoever. My gut instinct is not to trust them.
Cool. Ash?
Yeah. It's when I never use them myself. When I seen people post it on social media and stuff, like, oh, I was using the necrophonic or whatever, and I got these words. It's like always seems to be like death, scare, like words that you kind of associate with. Whether that's true or not, whether they're only posting that because they got them words, I don't know. But you always seem to see that. And I'm thinking like these are words that you'd sort of expect to sort of hear from like a demon or whatever say. So I was thinking, come on. So yeah, I mean, any, yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, like so the word bank, like these are programmed by humans, and obviously the app developers putting these words in and creating the software in the app that makes these words come out loud in quite a basic sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always that human element to it. And there's also only going to be limited words in there. Not going to have every single word in English language or any other language. It doesn't say the ghost has to be English. Like, I don't know if they have like foreign versions, probably do. But obviously, you're seeing to get English answers on the app. So I guess when there is sort of human programming behind it, it can never be random because computers can't create randomness. So yeah, I'd probably never use one. I don't think I would ever kind of put any sort of strength behind anyone that shows me app as an evidence. I think it has to be for entertainment purposes.
I think if I was marketing an app that was like the Ghost app or whatever, Speak to Ghost, the chances are that the words I'll be putting in there are more likely to get a response come out, like you say, like death, like spirit, I can see you, something creepy, because that way you're going to get more people to buy it, because people going, oh, I keep getting these results.
Yeah.
And I see that on the Facebook pages, people going, yeah, this app's amazing because I always get these responses. And it's like, obviously, like you said, Michaela, and like you said, Ash, it is one of those things that the chances are they've made it specifically to come up with those responses. I don't know. What do you think, Mike? I know what you're...
I'm gonna have to drop some knowledge on you guys and play the bad guy a little bit here.
Go on.
So the Alice box and the Ovulus work on, I believe, changes in temperature and EMF fluctuations, and then from that a word is selected. Apps like GhostTube listen to your microphone as opposed to that, so that could be what leads into it quite a lot. Apps like GhostTube, yes, it can detect EMF, but it's very, very rudimentary, and your phone gives off its own EMF signal, so that's very flawed. Ash, you're actually incorrect saying that they're programmed so they can't be random. Computers are very, very good at randomizing things, more so than human beings. So if you tell a computer program to randomize something, it will properly randomize it, and there are methods of doing that. So yes, it can be randomized, but you're right, there are caveats in that, and it could be a case that you randomize a word bank of 20 words that are all like death, Satan, devil, mortuary, or whatever, you know what I mean? But generally speaking, humans are the ones that are really fucking bad at randomizing things. Computers are great at it.
Can I counter with a bit of my my knowledge, which may be outdated and maybe sort of
you
doesn't
carry on,
work
mate.
the same way. Obviously, we come from poker backgrounds, and when you shuffle a deck of cards as a human, you will never ever shuffle the same order of cards.
Ever.
You shuffle them ever. That's fact. You'll never ever be in the same way ever again, and that's random. Computer, like online poker, when poker sites have to apply for their RNG, their random number generator sort of license to be able to like sort of run as a proper online poker site, it's like 0 point something percent random that they have to get that level to. They could random number generator, but they can. From when I was reading about it when I worked in the industry, they couldn't ever get the pure randomness of a shuffle. It was only sort of closest that's get within the sort of framework of as close to zero, but they can never actually get like zero for complete randomness on the RNG. So it's never ever 100% random. Don't know if it works in the same way with the type of thing, whether that would be completely random. Based on sort of that knowledge, it's
Did you say as an ex poker player?
working in the industry.
Okay, as a here's some nerd shit for you. As an ex Magic the Gathering player, I can tell you there is no fucking way you can properly randomize that deck because humans are very flawed, and even if you claim you're randomizing it by shuffling it, it's never going to come out. The thing is, humans look at randomness, air quotes, and go, well, you'd never get 4 3s in a line because that's not random enough. So we try and like trick ourselves into changing things to think it's random, whereas a computer will give you a true random thing, and that's why you'll get repeating numbers and things like that. Humans are flawed, man. Like, we could argue till the cows come home about this, but humans are very bad at randomizing things.
Here's a fact for you then about random. So
This is a random conversation.
So the iPod shuffle and the shuffle of an Apple in the old days, I don't know what it's like now, but the random shuffle of your playlist on Apple was not random because it was programmed not to play the same song twice. Therefore, it wasn't random.
It's not random, yeah. And this is the problem. What humans think is random isn't actually random, and that's why computers are generally pretty good at randomizing things. We just don't see it as random because you go like, well, why would it come up with 3373 and then 3374? That's not random. It's like, but it is because that's the nature of randomness. Going back to phone apps.
Yeah, so
I think we should be penalised for using the word random in the wrong context.
No, you're fine. I just like
it's interesting to have a discussion about what is
the point, right?
Yeah, and it's good to have a conversation about what actually is random.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sure. Back to phone apps. I can almost guarantee you that Necrophonic is absolute horseshit, and I would never use that fucking app because I found the dude's YouTube channel who made it, and he was blatantly like, it would say like a garbled word, and he'd be like, "It said my name," and it's like, "Your name is John. It did not say John. You are putting words on the screen to claim it does." And like, there's so much wrong with it. Apparently, people have used it for extended periods of time, and you start to get like the same things come through. So it's probably like a 12-hour audio bank that's just on a loop and starts at a random place. So yeah, Necrophonic is garbage, to be honest. Quite a lot of phone apps are garbage. So even if they are programmed by humans, like, your phone is always going to be a pretty flawed device for ghost hunting. And this is coming from someone who's toyed with and in the process of making a phone app saying this. So I guess you won't be purchasing mine when it comes out. But,
it depends if it's random or not.
It's massively random. Yeah.
Okay, so
it takes the concept of what Necrophonic tried to do in the sense that he was like, I created white noise banks, but I've actually created white noise banks with nothing but white noise in them. Okay. So that's a conversation for another time because that's probably a long way off.
Right. So to wrap things up then, what is your one piece of equipment that we may have mentioned it already, but the one piece of equipment that you go, this is the one that gives me most success on an investigation, Michaela?
Well, it would have to be my voice recorder, although I will just say, kind of not watch this space, but maybe listen to this space, because I recently bought come on, I'm a teacher, bought an SD7, and I haven't really had that much chance to use it. And I was chatting with somebody in America on my podcast Facebook chat page thing, and he said that they actually work even better if you take off the aerial.
I saw
Because
that on that group chat.
yeah,
I saw that.
I'm going to try that
Mm.
because I would be very excited to get some good stuff through on the SB7, but I haven't as yet. So a my Sony voice recorder, or possibly in the future an antennaless SB7.
Cool. Ash.
Based on the results that I've personally had, I'm going to say Spirit Box.
Yeah.
I've had quite a lot of decent results from the limited time that I've used them. Some really good results in different places, and I want my own one. So I need to buy one. But yeah, my go-to would be Spirit Box using the SS method,
Cool.
or being in a different room, like when you two did it.
Yep.
In that house, I think that's the best way to use it.
Definitely. Mike.
This might seem a bit of a cop-out because I've just bought a device called an Aeroflux, which measures barometric pressure or air pressure changes. I've been speaking to the dude who made it from a company called Skya Paranormal plug, and he knows his shit. And I only just recently used it on an investigation, and it was interesting. Like, it went off at the right times and seemingly in the right responses. To the point that we put like a Tupperware dish over the top of it. So in theory, the air pressure can't change if it's in like a sealed thing, and it was still going off. So I messaged him being like, "Is this faulty?" And he was like, "No, I did the same, and I can't explain it." So it's my new toy. I've heard loads of stuff about air pressure changes coinciding with other anomalous things happening, like phantom footsteps and things like that. So I'm really, really hot on that at the moment, and being like, there's potential there and something to explore.
Cool.
Can I just ask one thing before we go?
Yeah.
Are we on a time limit at all?
No.
I just want to ask what your opinions are on the devices, the types of spirit boxes. I think they're called portals, where you get the voices through, and they use them a lot on the paranormal programs, and I find them really fascinating, but I can't afford one myself. What do you think about those?
Is that like the Echo Box type thing? So what's called?
Yeah, Mike, I think he knows what I'm talking about.
All they are is spirit boxes with a delay guitar note, with a noise gate guitar pedal and a reverb guitar pedal attached. So all it does is you set the noise gate to a threshold so you don't get a lot of the radio bleed, and then you set the reverb so when something does come through, you get like an extra couple of chances to hear it because there's like a little bit of reverb after it. And I think generally speaking, that's what portals are. They've just got like noise gate controls, reverb controls, but they're generally speaking like a spirit box that you just run through some extra bits so you cut out a lot of the crap. They are wicked, though.
Sounds like there should be some instructions on how to make them on our website at some point, Mike.
I could probably tell you, but I've not actually made it myself, and it's probably pretty expensive when you get into the guitar pedals because a lot of them are like 9-volt wall sockets. You need to run them, and I'm like, who wants to be carrying around like a 3-prong plug with them on an investigation, being like, "Oh, we got a wall socket here. I just need to plug my spirit box in." You know,
Is that the really, really loud, like just the noise? It's proper scary because it's just like proper loud. Is that what we're talking about?
They're kind of echoey, aren't they? And you can hear the voice. It's like you imagine that there's a spirit in an echoey room in another dimension, and it's talking directly to you. It's quite unnerving. I think they're amazing.
Yeah, quite weird sounding and almost haunting, for want of a better. You have to check them out, and they use them quite a lot on some of the programs for definite. So I like the look of them. They're well expensive, though.
Yeah, they're over £1,000.
Oh, you can make them way cheaper than that.
You reckon?
Really?
Yeah, I know Infrareddy have just started to release one, but I mean, you do need an amplifier with it as well, or unless you could aux into like a Bluetooth. This is a stupidly technical conversation for what you guys have actually asked. I'll shut up and we'll discuss things in private.
But I like those pieces of equipment as well. They seem to get good results, and for me, the spirit box again is my go-to. I do like the Estes method. I've seen it going back to Danny Moss. I've seen some successful Estes method stuff on the Haunted Hunts program. Me and Ash have done it remotely. Him in Manchester, me in Oxford. We've done it there. We've done it online. We've done it in Cannock Chase. We've had good results, and like results that you go, actually, that's not entirely random. There's definite stuff there. So
and you start have to work out probabilities, and again, how much of a coincidence is a coincidence in those sort of situations, right?
well, when somebody says it comes up, we're in Cannock Chase, and Ash comes out with the name of somebody who's in our group as she walks past him in the dark. He's got a blindfold on, and he doesn't know what question we're asking.
And I know the thing is, a lot of skeptics and people will say, well, oh, that's because Ali was there with you. But when you're doing the Estes method, you are not thinking about anything but the white noise that's coming into your ears and focusing on that to try and clearly hear what's coming through. So that the things around you don't even enter into your mind when you're doing it, right?
No, even when that happened, 'cause I said the name Abby, and in my head, 'cause I used to work with a girl called Abby, so in my head, she appeared in my head. Well, even Abby, I was stood 5 feet away from, the Abby I'd not seen for 6 months came in my head, not the Abby I was with. It's only afterwards, obviously, when you told me about it, I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's mad.
We need to start implementing the double Estes method more.
The double.
Getting two people to do it, and then having one person ask questions and see if the two people speaking start to match up, or if they start to have a conversation with each other back and forth.
Wow. I like that. That's the next thing. Then we'll try that.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, definitely.
I did see it on I think it was on Kindred Spirits. I saw them do that once. It was quite incredible, actually.
I think the Estes method is such a cool sort of experiment to try, especially where you're taking that person's the sensory perception away, so that all they can do is focus on that white noise and any voices that come through. I think that's quite a powerful thing, because you can't suggest stuff to them. They're just randomly saying stuff, randomly coming out of words. And I think, at what point, like Mo said, at what point does what they're saying, is it a coincidence? How often can a coincidence happen for it to not be a coincidence?
Yeah, so. I found when I did it, I became hyper aware of my kind of personal space, and being a teacher of small children, I am quite aware anyway. I can literally feel when there's a child stood behind me. I know they're there, and I turn around and like, yes. But it felt like that. I felt, and I don't know if this is just a symptom of the white noise, because I know a lot of people feel this, but I felt like there was someone stood just behind my left shoulder, and it was so tangible. It was quite freaky, actually.
Oh, wow, that's cool. I've not had that, but I could definitely hear the things, intelligent things. It's just it's very strange, and I think because you've got your eyes closed and you've got the headphones on, so you're wrapped up in your own head, really, aren't you? So cool.
As a final tidbit before we wrap up as well.
Yeah.
For anyone who's listening who's really, really smart, and I kind of haven't told this. All right, Greg. I kind of haven't said this to anyone because I was keeping it in my back pocket, but whatever.
Exclusive.
Echolocation in the paranormal field. Has it been explored? Which I don't think it has. And the stuff you can find on echolocation is really sketchy, but you imagine if you were able to have a device where you could echolocate, i.e. bounce a sound wave off a wall and it comes back, and then you start to see anomalous stuff in the image of that sound wave as it comes back, right?
Okay.
I don't know how to figure it out, unfortunately, but that was something I was like, this hasn't been tested. It could.
I'll ask my bat friend.
Your bat friend?
I'm joking.
My dolphin in the garden. But you know
I
what I mean?
genuinely
Like,
thought you had a bat friend then. Not a
Yeah.
friend who's a bat, but
I
Yeah,
thought
I
it
could
was
have
that
carried
friend.
that on.
how is Bruce?
that was Bruce, yeah. Cool. Right. So we'll wrap. That's like a good
That's a
point to wrap
brilliant
up.
idea, though.
It
Gosh,
is.
wow, yeah.
We need to talk more about that. Mate,
I
you got
love
some
the
good
idea of
ideas.
pictures and
Sonar,
sound.
but
Yeah.
space. Sonar, but in
I don't know how you
Right.
could crack it. I know there is a device for blind people that you can wear on your wrist, which as you get close to stuff, it sends vibrations up your arm. I don't think that would quite do it.
I suppose
No, I
it.
know
Yeah. Sorry.
you can do it underwater,
Yeah,
but I don't know how you do it in air.
yeah, it might not even be possible, right? But it's just one of those things that I was
But
like,
bats can do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's possible, but I don't know.
certain
Yeah.
humans can do it as well.
Yeah.
Certain humans,
There
after
must
a
be a
long
way
period
you
of
can do
time,
it.
you can, after a long period of time, you can train yourself to sort of like make clicking noises with your sounds, and depending on how the echo sounds coming back, you can work out where shit is in a room.
Well, the mystical reckon that that's how Bigfoots communicate to each other. I don't know if you're into all that, but that's one of the theories. And but there are some tribes, aren't there, around the world that communicate with clicks, and they
Yes.
all know exactly where they are and where it came from and things.
I just go, Marco. I just wait for somebody to shout polo, and I know where they are.
Proper fucking
On
Don't
dad
worry,
joke.
dear.
On that bombshell of a joke, dad jokes. Where can people
Didn't know it was
find
a
you?
joke.
It was a joke. Where can people find you and your podcast, Michaela?
Well, when I'm not relaxing under my blanket on the sofa, you can find me on all good podcast apps. My podcast is Paranormal or What. I believe my biggest listenership is on Apple,
Cool.
and then Spotify, but it's on everything basically. And if you want to contact me, you can contact me at Paranormal or What podcast at outlook.com, or you can find my podcast on anchor.fm.
Cool. Mike, what about you?
If my opinions on the paranormal haven't alienated you enough, you can find me at Paramike on YouTube, where I basically record myself going around allegedly haunted buildings and showing you what it's like. Yeah, Paramike on the YouTube.
You got a link tree?
There is linktree/Paramike, I think. I'm sure it's Paramike. All the other stuff's on there. Instagram, Twitter, everything else, Facebook, it's all on there. You can also find links to it in any of the video descriptions on any of the Paramite videos. So get on there if you're interested.
And we'll put links to everybody's on the show notes as well. So, yes. Any final words from you, Ash?
No, I've enjoyed this foray into everyone's different thoughts and opinions. It's been good.
Definitely. Right.
I learned quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Random number generators.
I'm still right about random numbers, so I'm gonna stick to my
It's
guns.
okay to be wrong, mate. It's fine.
But there's another fact that all the combinations of packs of cards being dealt have not been done yet. It will never be done. So that's a fact.
There we go.
There we go.
I mean, given an infinite amount of time, it will be done. But okay.
Yeah, all right.
Not before the world ends.
Exactly. Which could be this year potentially, depending on how
It's
Putin gets
quantum
on.
immortality.
Depends if the aliens come down.
Yes, fingers crossed. Take me. Right. Well, thank you very much, guys, and we will catch up again soon. Thanks for joining us on another Paranormal
Pursuit of
Roundtable.
the Paranormal.
It's been a pleasure.
With Ash
Thank
and
you. It's been
Brett.
brilliant.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
And others.